All right, everyone. Let's talk about some WandaVision today. I've been meaning to make this video for a while, but I procrastinated quite a bit with it, and I had to watch the show a second time. I feel like to really do it justice. So, as always, let's start off with positives about the show. Um, let me just give like I'm gonna try not to spoil anything, anything major, any plot, anything like that. But there'll be spoilers discussed throughout this review, so just be aware of that. I'll try my best to not make them major things, but overall, I need to talk about some of them, or I can't really do the review justice. So, if you don't want any spoilers, pause this video, go watch WandaVision first. I definitely recommend it as a watch, and then come back and let's talk about it. Okay, positives. Let's just start off by saying that Wanda and Vision have went from being characters that I barely cared about in the MCU to probably being two of my favorite characters in the MCU. I really enjoyed this show. I actually think this was like the perfect way to kick off the Disney Plus series, because I was pretty skeptical of the show to begin with anyway. Like, I was skeptical going into it, and I feel like a lot of people were. And I wasn't particularly excited. Like, I really love the MCU. I really like the way that this universe is like this. There's all these cross. I like epic fantasy, so I love like things that have huge storytelling, and I can sit down and watch hours and hours and hours of things that are all interconnected and find the pieces, and that's part of the thing I love. So take it, take everything I say with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I try to be as critical as possible with it. But like I wasn't particularly like when I heard this was like going to be a thing, I was like, okay. I mean, they weren't really interesting characters to me, so I was really like kind of like, why should I care? And like, I mean, I was gonna watch it anyway, but I wasn't particularly excited about having to watch a bunch of new shows in addition to watching all the movies, and having like this weird, like, just so much content to consume, to stay up to date on everything that's going on. And like, for me, that's not that hard, but I could see that being an issue for a lot of other people too. Because there's just a lot. There's a lot. And they've got a lot planned moving forward. I think that one of the best things about this show was the fact that they used this sitcom style. They played on the traditional tropes of the sitcom to use it and warped it to their own advantage for their story, and they made it grounded in the reality of the universe of the show and like the MCU in whole. It's not just like some weird gimmick. It's like it has purpose. It has storytelling purpose, and it has storytelling impact, which is awesome and really well thought out. Like, I was so excited every week to watch the show. After I kind of waited for the first few episodes to come out, and then after that, I started like, it was like I couldn't wait till the next Friday to watch it. I really like what they did with Wanda specifically. I think they spent a lot of time really diving into her grief and how she is dealing with kind of the loss of everything that around her. Like, she doesn't really have anything or anyone left. And I think that was super well done. And again, she became like one of my favorite characters in the MCU, and I'm very excited for her moving forward. And the Doctor Strange 2 movie, I'm like really pumped about seeing where this story is going to go moving forward. What other some other things? I love that I love what they did with Vision overall, especially uh, the ending fight between White Vision and the Wanda created Vision. I think that was super interesting, and I'm really happy that they found a way to bring Vision back without it feeling forced. Like without it just being like a surprise, he's back. And like they made me want him to come back. Like, and I think that is it can be really difficult in storytelling to do something like that, to make a resurrection feel justified. I don't feel like that's a super common thing. Generally, when I see a character die, I generally want them to stay dead, and resurrections usually feel pretty cheap. But I felt like this one was well earned. And there's consequences. I think that's the biggest thing, probably for me, is consequences. And like we don't know what the whole consequence of White Vision's gonna be in the long term of the MCU. So, yeah, I'm pumped about that. I'm excited about the introduction of Wanda's kids. I thought that was really cool. I'm not a big comic book reader. I do try to stay in tune to a lot of the community that are big comic book readers, and so I know a little bit now. But I just thought they were interesting characters. Gosh, there's so many good things about the show to talk about. Another big thing is just like all the side characters that came back, Darcy and Jimmy Woo. I'm so excited, and I want to see them pop up in more Marvel projects. Like, I think that's one good thing that's been going on at this very beginning stage of Phase 4 is the introduction of these reintroduction, I guess, of these side characters that have the ability to a little bit more easily just pop up in random movies. And I think that gives the universe a bit more realism and life to it. It makes it feel a bit more full because these side characters are developed. We know who they are. They're not just cardboard cutout personality tropes. They're people in this universe, and I really, 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 really like that. I really like the character of Monica. Like, again, this show has so many things that I liked about it. I thought Monica getting her power scene was really cool. That was an awesome scene. I really enjoyed. They did good setup for it overall. I'm trying to decide if I feel like it's a little rushed. Maybe just like the taddest bit, but overall, like, no complaints. I thought that was a cool scene. And I'm really excited to see, like, I'm excited they're using these shows to set up bigger things moving forward into the movies so that we don't have to spend this time setting those up within the movies or just brushing over them. Like, they can spend time in these TV shows really diving into these characters and setting them up so that when we get to the movies, they don't need as much screen time as they would need if you needed to set them up. So I really think that's going to be a good thing moving forward. Let's talk about a few critiques. I think my biggest critique is that it feels like they tried to do too much in this show. They have a lot of setup for stuff moving forward, and while I enjoy almost all of it, I just feel like there's like I've been seeing a lot of basically like they've had plot lines that they had to cut from the last episode due to COVID and other stuff and just not having enough time to finish it. And like with Monica and the kids and Ralph uh, and Darcy, and I think those are I felt those not in the show. And like I get it. I get production, time crunches and stuff like that, but I hope that they bring some of those things back moving forward, and I think some of them might come up, but overall it felt like that there was just like a little bit like it wasn't quite a fully like it could have used one more episode to fully finish everything. So that was one of my biggest problems with it is like that those plot lines in specifically I could feel those missing, those wrap ups missing. There was not enough time to wrap up everything that they had set up. And I know they didn't intend to wrap up everything because you want to leave questions for projects moving forward and stuff like that. But that one specifically kind of bothered me a little bit. Tyler Hayward was kind of a meh villain. I think it's okay because you have so many interesting characters and it's like it's more about getting Wanda's story rather than having some like crazy antagonistic force. And you had Agatha too, and I thought she was a bit more interesting. And I liked her whole thing. And her song is so catchy. There's so many catchy things in this show. But Tyler Hayward was kind of like, okay, you're here. You're a kind of messed up government official who let power go to their head and thinks that they have authority to do whatever they want. So it's fine. But it definitely, he could have used some more development, and I feel like he's just there more as like a plot device rather than actually being like a fully fleshed out antagonist. And then the last thing, which I think made a lot of people upset, was the whole Ralph Boner situation. I'm still skeptical of what the show ends with. Who knows? They might just leave it at that. But there are certain dialogue pieces in the earlier episodes that do set up the potential of this multiverse type situation maybe being a possibility, or maybe Ralph is a new version of Quicksilver within the MCU. I don't like if they leave it as it is now at the end of this show and that's all they want to do with it, then I'm a little disappointed in them, because I feel like they basically just used that, as shock value, as like, oh, is this there's this big multiverse crossover thing, and I think that's kind of cheesy. I'm not a big fan of like if it doesn't have a storytelling purpose, if it's like this meta, argument, if it's like this meta thing more than it is like actually concretely placed within the universe, it's kind of like, come on, you definitely did not need to do that. You just did that to like be like freak people out, and that's just kind of it doesn't really add anything other than this random shock value, which I think in the long term makes people more mad than, like surprised. But again, I think judging by the setup that I've seen throughout the show, and like there's just like little pieces here and there, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back and there's more to that story that we don't know yet. And they wanted to set it up in this show, but they didn't want to give away it yet. It was mostly like more of like a, hey, guess what's coming? Because we all know that there's multiverse stuff coming. It's just, we'll see. We'll see, and my critique will probably be moved into future things. So, again, I honestly think this is probably one of the best Marvel works that is out. It's definitely up there in my list, and I think it's like, I think it's interesting and different than a lot of like traditional superhero type projects that have been released up to this point, especially through Marvel. So I think honestly, like if you haven't watched it and you've made it to the end of this video, I really would go watch it. I think that it's good. I do think that obviously, like the way the MCU works, you kind of need a lot of the shows or a lot of the movies to get the context of the whole story. This one might be one that you can watch without too much back story. Like there's enough, I think, talked about in the show that you'll get it, but you might not have quite as many impactful moments as you would if you had the full context of the story. So I think that's going to be it for this one, guys. As always, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to support the channel. And if you agree, disagree, and just want to discuss, comment down below. We can talk about it. I always enjoy hearing from you guys. So, and I really appreciate the support of the channel and just being able to chat and see what else is on other people's minds. So thank you for watching.